House of Parliament to sit in a Central Committee meeting on February the 18th with the CFT. Management of the Princess Juliana International Airport dispels rumors of one case of the coronavirus on the island. But first up, Minister of Labour Pamela Gordon-Carty defends the draft labor law on working permit. Those are the headlines for Monday, February the 17th, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. The Central Committee meeting that was requested by MPs Bijlani, Bryson, Heiliger Martin, and Otley was convened this afternoon, February the 17th, 2020. The meeting was in regards to the government's new policy on the issuance of labor or work permits that was published in the National Gazette on Friday, February the 7th, 2020. The Minister of Labour, in her capacity, defended and reiterated her stance where it pertains to the granting of work permits.
The employment permit policy was introduced with condition based on Article 6 of the National Ordinance on Foreign Labourers. I would like to quote what was publicized. As per Article 6, Paragraph 1 in the National Ordinance on Employment of Foreigners, the Minister can impose conditions to an employment permit pertaining to the efforts that must be exercised by an employer to fill vacancies with suitable candidates from the local St. Martin market. The aftermath of Hurricane Irma has seen many foreigners employed with companies on St. Martin. In addition, several companies, even 2.5 years after Hurricane Irma, are still continuously filling and filing for labor permits renewals for foreign employees. Unemployment remains alarmingly high on St. Martin. This, even though various occupations of the growing pool of registered jobless persons match the vacancies posted by employers on St. Martin. This necessitates further objective restructuring of the requirements of employers to, within the vacancy time period, strive as much as possible to fill their vacancies with registered or unregistered job seekers in St. Martin. As such, to further define what constitutes suitable efforts for employers to fill their vacancies with persons from the local job market, therefore this exercise. I will also want to go a little bit more in depth into international laws which under St. Martin falls. Legal regulations of St. Martin based on Article 81A, which is the Constitution of St. Martin, stipulates that we have to comply with the Charter of the Kingdom. This is substantiated by Article 43, Sub 1. Each of the countries shall promote the realization of fundamental human rights and freedom, legal certainty, and good governance. We have used this article in order for us to substantiate and also give us the reason to make sure that country St. Martin is in appliance and in compliance with this international rule. One of those human rights is certainly the right to work. We as a government needs to prepare and make sure that job vacancies are filled primarily by our locals. That's their human rights. In the Constitution of St. Martin, there is an article that states the following. Agreements with other debts, Article 81B. agreements with other powers and international law organizations to the extent that they have been ratified for St. Martin. One of those organizations is the United Nations, and in this case, the International Convention of Economic and Social Rights, which has ratified the kingdom with applicability in St. Martin since 1979. So these are things that we're supposed to have been already applying with from since 1979. It's not something that we are inventing it now. We have to be in compliance as a country, St. Martin, according to these rules. There are international rules where St. Martin falls under.
The meeting was adjourned to afford the minister time to answer those and other questions posed. And we will have more of the Central Committee meeting in tomorrow's edition of SXM Daily News. In other news at this time, the Food Safety Division of Inspectorate VSA has noted an increasing amount of complaints about food safety violations in the media. The Food Safety Division wants to notify the public that inspections are continually being done at all food establishments, bars, and roadside eateries on the Dutch side of the island. The Inspectorate inspects all food establishments before an operational license is issued. All establishments have received instructions to correct the violations within a short period of time, 24 hours to 7 days, in order to maintain operational status. Some of the major supermarkets on the island have been inspected, and divisions were instructed them to make certain improvements, discard certain items, and make the necessary corrections. Follow-up inspections have concluded that all or most of the violations that were found have been corrected. Establishments are urged to use safe food practices when preparing, handling, and storing food that are for human consumption. All persons serving food in the industry must have their food handler certificates, and all permits must be readily available for the inspector's viewing. The Inspectorate has instructed all food establishments to have a hazard analysis and critical control points HACCP system in place, which is a systematic preventative approach to food safety from biological, chemical, and physical hazards that can cause the food product to be unsafe. An HACCP plan establishes measures to reduce these risks to a safe level. The Food Safety Division will also be employing more tactics to engage the community that it serves, creating more awareness by releasing more information to get the public involved and informed about food safety. Controls are done in a more rigorous manner. Inspectorate will be stricter in their enforcement of the law, and the division will be visiting establishments more frequently to ensure compliance. The Inspectorate is always in contact with the FDA, USDA, FSIS when it comes to recalls and questionable food products from the United States. The Inspectorate is an enforcement entity, but still needs the assistance of the public to be able to do their tasks more effectively. If you find any product in a supermarket, restaurant, or bar that is unfit for human consumption, the Inspectorate requests that you file a complaint instead of posting on social media. That can create confusion. When an official complaint is filed, an investigation will be launched. Some of the images and videos that are posted on social media are a hoax. Sometimes this is done on purpose to harm a certain person or entity. Please take pictures and/or videos as evidence for your complaint. An official complaint can be filed at the department located on the second floor of the Vineyard Building, or you can call them at 721-520-2936, or send them an email. Together, more can be done. And still to come, management of the Princess Juliana International Airport dispels rumors of one case of the coronavirus on the island. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Tell me what it is about the carnival that got us traveling all over the world, searching for that one special feeling. Tell me that. So tell me what it is about the carnival that have the people getting on like animals. I see the people jumping and waving, people from around the world anticipating we. Carnival is the place for you and me, and everybody jumping up in unity.
And in other news, a large amount of marijuana intercepted at the harbor. Customs officers at the harbor confiscated a large amount of marijuana hidden in over 200 boxes that arrived on St. Martin in a container on February the 14th, 2020. A general control was done by the customs on several containers that arrived in the morning on the ship Jamila, which was anchored in the harbor. When opening one of the containers, which originated from Jamaica, the officers found several packages containing compressed marijuana. The detectives and the police department and the public prosecutor were directed to the harbor to further oversee the matter. After an investigation was performed at the location, the marijuana was removed from the container, placed on several trucks, and then transported to the police station. At the police station in Phillipsburg, the drugs were weighed and photographed by the personnel of the forensic department. After being processed, the confiscated narcotics were then taken to the dump where it was immediately destroyed, under the supervision of the public prosecutor's office. The Justice Department K-9 units were called in to confirm that there were no more drugs hidden in cases of the container, and the amount of marijuana that was confiscated could not be verified. The head of the Customs Department, Mr. Anthony Doran, announced that controls at harbor facilities will intensify with the assistance of the police and other law enforcement personnel. No other arrests have been made, and the investigation is still ongoing. SXM Airport's Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Michel Hyman, confirmed that there should be no cause for panic of a coronavirus case at the airport. The management of the Princess Juliana International Airport confirms that the mobile video that was being circulated throughout social media, whereby a passenger can be seen leaving the airport boarding gate in a wheelchair into an ambulance, it was insinuated that the passenger was infected with the novel coronavirus. The airport management confirms that there should not be any cause for panic, as this was not the case. Corporate Communications Specialist at the Princess Juliana International Airport, Audrey St. Louis Jack, spoke to our news department.
According to our Chief Operations Officer, that's Mr. Michel Hyman, he made a statement on Friday last that there is a mobile video which is being circulated throughout social media, as you mentioned, where a passenger can be seen leaving the airport boarding gate area. So it wasn't really in the front of the terminal building. They were actually leaving the airport boarding gate area on the air side in a wheelchair into an ambulance. It was insinuated that the passenger was infected with the novel coronavirus. That is not the case. So there should be no cause for panic. The statement was officially released by the airport last Friday on February 14th. The passenger was a Philippines male national traveling from Manila, Philippines on board a KLM flight from Amsterdam on the very Friday afternoon with intentions of a transit flight to Tortola. He was actually traveling there for work. The male passenger was feeling nauseous and had subsequently vomited. So we had our rescue and firefighting EMT, kudos to them, who received the emergency call and responded right away. They followed protocol, and that's why they were dressed the way they were in that video, and took the necessary precautionary measures. So the passenger was then transported to our isolation room, because we, of course, are ready with our pandemic plan in the event of anything. So hence the words precautionary measures. At 5 p.m., where further medical checks were carried out. The airport's medical doctor, that's Dr. Sonia Swanson-Mead, she was called immediately for further directives. Following the guidelines recommended by the health department, the passenger was questioned by our rescue and firefighters EMT regarding specific symptoms of and personal circumstances related to possible exposure of the novel coronavirus. The passenger responded negative to all basic queries, so that was no. The patient was examined by the EMT and his vital signs successfully were checked and reported to Dr. Swanson-Mead. She assessed the passenger's symptoms and the signs were inconsistent with the established criteria for coronavirus, and that he was more likely to be suffering from a recently diagnosed chronic illness. The passenger was weakened due to dehydration and possible electrolyte imbalance due to the existing condition that he had. And of course, we're very private with that information for them because that's their personal medical history. But we were clear that there was no sign of fever, cough, or any respiratory system. The passenger reportedly felt better after being given oral fluid and indicated, the doctor indicated that the passenger and patient was cleared for travel on the short flight to Tortola. It must be stated, I should say rather, that the passenger was denied boarding by the KLM airline pilot. And in the case, it was decided to transport him to the St. Martin Medical Center. And that, of course, was because he was ill and he was vomiting, as mentioned earlier. So that is the right of the airline, any airline in the world, to do such.
Now turning to our weather forecast. The Atlantic high-pressure system will maintain brisk winds and above normal seas across the region. A relatively drier air mass will restrict significant showers during the forecast period. However, shallow patches of moisture embedded in the wind flow may still produce some brief passing showers. Seas are expected to peak at 9 feet in some areas, and small craft operators and sea bathers should continue to exercise caution. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, President of the Windward Islands Teachers Union, Mrs. Claire Alshot, says Minister of Labor has the right to regulate the labor market. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
President of the Windward Islands Teachers Union, Mrs. Claire Alshot, in an invited comment, told SXM Daily News that Ms. Pamela Gordon-Carty has the right as minister to regulate the labor market, and the SHTA has no right to demand that they pull back.
The minister has the rights as minister to regulate the workforce in St. Martin. As a union even, I feel that St. Martin cannot continue to be the breadbasket of the world, not only the Caribbean, of the world, because if you see the different nationalities that are here, some of the things that is happening right now on the labor market is so worrisome that on March the 26th and 27th, all of the unions or certain centers of unions throughout the Netherlands. Antilles will be here in St. Martin to discuss that. When I say that, because even though work permit yes or work permit not, the exploitation of workers is becoming rampant. So Curacao, Bonaire, and Aruba, together with St. Martin, we will have a meeting as the Caribbean, the Dutch Caribbean, on a number of topics you would hear after. But coming back to the part of the minister, I wholeheartedly believe that it's the ministers, and finally the ministers, it's her call to regulate the market. That doesn't mean that they would not sign off on some work permits, for certain things, but you have to regulate your market. Because if you go to Aruba, tell the truth, Aruba pa los Arubianos, which means Aruba for the Arubians. If you go to Curacao, Curacao pa you Curacao, Curacao for the Curacaoians. So then how come? If a minister decide, well, I want my local people, so St. Martin become for the St. Martiners, I want my local people to be in jobs, and I want them to be employed. Why is the other employers saying that the law have to be pulled back in? So the employers' organization wants to be the lawmakers? Something wrong there. Something is wrong there. Somebody spoiled those workers' organization. I think it's time this step up to the plate to be a part of the social, economical development within the scope of providing jobs for St. Martiners. Because even the government has stepped up to make sure that they are, training people as skilled workers, and then you are still not given that type of support. It is not good. And Ricardo, as a union, the Windward Islands Chamber of Labor Union, we have taken note of that, and we are going to actually put our part forward. There are no meetings right now of the tripartite committee, but I would like to say that it is the minister's call for that. I support that whole thing because it is a fact that when you have a community that can't take care of your workers, everything burdens back down on government. And I is one of the persons that believe that you teach a man to fish, and you don't give them a fish every day, but teach them to fish.
And in other news, the Collective Preventative Services, CPS, a government department under the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, is calling on the community to take immediate measures to prevent mosquito breeding. As the island experienced several days of rainfall, the chance has risen of mosquito breeding sites. CPS is calling on the community to take immediate measures to prevent mosquito breeding. The community of St. Martin is asked to check household yards and businesses' outdoor work areas in search of potential mosquito breeding sites and eliminate them. Keep St. Martin mosquito free. Prevention is the cure. Breeding sites include anywhere that water can settle. This includes tin cans, old tires, empty paint cans, buckets, old saucers, flower pots, cemetery urns, vases, old pet dishes, unused plastic swimming pools, or other containers that collect and hold water. In addition, owners of boats, whether at home or in boatyards for repair, need to make sure that they are properly covered. Tire repair shops and garages also need to take preventative measures to get rid of the old tires and vehicles, as these can collect rainwater and become a breeding ground for mosquitoes. The same applies to contractors and owners of properties being repaired. Every household and business must do its part to eliminate the Aedes aegypti mosquito breeding sites and keep the country mosquito free. Once again, it is very important to check around your yard and your business to make sure that there is no standing water after rain. Install mosquito screens in windows and doors and store rainwater in well-covered tanks. The public is also advised to wear light-colored clothing. Make sure it's loose-fitting clothing during an outdoor activity, as mosquitoes are attracted to dark colors. When practical, wear long sleeves and pants when going outdoors to decrease the risk of being bitten by mosquitoes. To report mosquito breeding sites or to request information about eliminating mosquito breeding sites, contact the coordinator of the Vector program by sending an email, or you can call hotline 520-2874. And still to come, the House of Parliament to sit in the Central Committee meeting on February the 18th, which is tomorrow, with the CFT. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Tell me what it is about the carnival that got us traveling all over the world, searching for that one special feeling. Tell me that. So tell me what it is about the carnival that have the people getting on like animals. I see the people jumping and waving, people from around the world anticipating we. Carnival is the place for you and me, and everybody jumping up in unity.
A Central Committee meeting on Parliament will be convened on Tuesday regarding a discussion with the CFT concerning the financial situation of St. Martin. The House of Parliament will sit in the Central Committee meeting on February the 18th. The Central Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday at 11:45 a.m. in the General Assembly Chamber of the House of Parliament. Is located at Wilhelmina Straat, number 1 in Phillipsburg. The agenda point is discussion with the CFT concerning the financial situation of St. Martin. Members of the public are invited to the House of Parliament to attend parliamentary deliberations. The House of Parliament is located across from the courthouse in Phillipsburg. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. On behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you back here again tomorrow.